all of the time, but I don't necessarily, I'm used to having a negative dialogue with that part. I'm used to saying, okay, well, hey, you don't have time for this. You need to be moving forward. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. You need to be doing this, which makes that part like, well, double fingers up on that one. Like, no way, Jose. I'm out. And then I come into like this war with myself of like, okay, well, what is healthy? And trying to establish that dialogue with that part of myself has been the challenge whenever I've been doing parts work. That, and then thinking that my opinion or what I think is should be heard. That's a part.
Well, you're a manifestor, so that comes with the territory, and that's not something that we want to necessarily release from you. That's part of your magic.
Yeah, well, I had an interesting confrontation with a very close friend recently where I was just trying to encourage and I was trying to read and gain information with what they were sharing with me. And my response was like, yeah, get into it. And it came across as something that I was speaking down to them. And that was not my intent at all. And then it actually kind of got a little bit heated because of that. So I'm trying to learn when to do that, when to speak.
So here's the thing with manifestors, which is it's a hard thing to decondition from, because if you are just blasting your opinion on somebody, that might not be the way to go. But if it's more of a like, I'm sharing, like you have your spleen connected to your throat and your emotional center connected to your throat. So if it's more like I'm sharing my feelings, yes. Yeah. I'm sharing my instincts, my intuition. Yes. And that's where it's just I'm informing you of something. And I think that's where the nuance comes across. And the thing is with manifestors is you have to understand that your aura is hard for us to read.
Everybody shrink away already. So it's like walking into the situation, I'm already like, the odds are against me.
Yes. And I mean, that's just your belief right now because of the way you've been treated. So I would say we could work to reprogram that belief at the same time as really seeing why that makes you unique and how you can help people understand Thomas, because right now, like, people don't realize it's happening, but your aura feels hazy to us and we can't read you like we can other people. So that's where the inform comes from, is let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what you need from us. Let us know. And then we can either get on the bandwagon or stay off of it. So it gets more people to help you out in what it is that you want to accomplish. And also it gives people the opportunity in the first place to jump on or not.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
So yeah, you kind of just have to look at it as like, I call it the repelling aura in human design, which I don't like. I don't like that word. I like hazy aura. Because when you're truly living your design, it's, I think that word probably comes from manifestors feeling angry because they're not living their design. And it seems like nobody's on with anything because they're not informing. Right. And so it also, there's this responsibility, like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like it feels like there's this really important thing that you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I'm communicating with people, what it is that like I'm given situations or ideas or things, and of course you are as well, especially in your line of work as being a spiritual mentor. But like on the day-to-day, this is just happening because of how I am. But I'm given these situations and asked for feedback, and then I have to be cautious on how I deliver the feedback because it may come across the wrong way. So it's just like I don't feel obligated. That's not the right word, but I want to do that.
Yeah. So I think that's the hardest thing. I have like 4 manifestor clients right now, and you guys all struggle with the same thing. And it's I get it, because when other people are not like, you're like, this is not my intention. Like, the what you're projecting onto me is not my intention. You just can't feel
Exactly.
my energy because my aura is hazy. So I think it has to kind of be, at least from what I've experienced in coaching people through this and what they've reported back, is like, the more just direct you are, and you're just like to the point, direct, and you're not really thinking about their feelings and how they're going to react, which I know is the hardest part. That's where things start to change, and you start just realizing, oh, the more I inform,
Mhm.
the more direct I am, and I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not caring. It's something that you're not caring about their feelings, because your energy will communicate that, and eventually people will be able to just expect that from you.
Right.
And she was like, oh, like, my manifestors, I'm like, they're going to be really honest with me.
Yeah.
They're going to be no BS with me, and I appreciate them for that, and I go to them for that. Or they'll initiate something into me. Like, I love how all my manifestors reach out to me. I don't have to reach out to them. They're like, hey, I need to tell you something. Like, yes. That's how that exchange works. Give me something to respond to. I'm a manifesting generator.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That is true. That's so funny, because I do that.
Well, you guys have been conditioned to be people pleasers because your aura is so big. You want to make people feel comfortable in your aura. And then because they can't read your aura, you're like, oh, let me just make myself smaller.
Yeah, that's really good.
But it's kind of like you're literally here just to drive the train and be like, all aboard. And if people don't get on, then you're not with the right people, and you will find the right people, right? Which you've probably learned over time. So
Yeah.
You probably learned that the people in your life that really get you, you don't have to explain your intention.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And oftentimes what's happening is they're projecting their own issues with authority onto you because you have an authoritative presence. It actually has nothing to do with you. It's especially you, since you have an open G center, you're mirroring right back to them, their identity.
Oh my gosh. I remember whenever you first gave me that reading, like my very first reading with you, I remember I was like, holy balls, I am a mirror.
Holy balls. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, let's jump. How do you feel about some parts work?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the way I like to do this is, it really helps us to move our physical body so we can help our brain adjust to the new energy. So it's as simple as this. Like, when you're in the center of your screen, it's easy on a computer, right? Because we can just look at our screen. You are in your aware energy.
Okay.
This is Thomas, right? This is ground zero. And then when we shift, you can feel, like, I'll have you close your eyes and you can just kind of feel, where does that energy call to me? Where is it living? Is it on my right side? Is it behind me?
Okay.
Is it on my left side? Whatever. And just kind of feel into where that energy is. And then we'll have you shift into that part. And when you're in that part, and I'll try to remind you if you kind of get out of it, of course, but when you're in that part, you want to commit to talking in third person. So
I can do that.
Talking about Thomas, right?
Yep.
And feeling, is this what is this energy? Is this a man? Is this a woman? Is this a they? Is this a animal? Like, it could literally be anything.
Okay. Yeah.
And it can have its own name. Like, we can get real creative with this, or we can keep it simple and just call things like, the protector, or whatever word resonates with you. I have like ways that we can describe these parts, but you can also come up with your own names for them, for whatever
Okay.
resonates. So you were mentioning to me earlier about the lazy part.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a split inside of you. And this is something that's really common in parts work, is especially, this shows up like a good way to know whether you have a part, whether you're disowning a part, we call them disowned parts, is who you're judging in your external reality. So, like, let's say at work, for example, do lazy people kind of trigger you?
Oh, big time.
There you go. So it's a really easy way to figure out what you've disowned within yourself, or you could call it an underused part too. Disowned is usually something you are completely unaware of within your consciousness that it exists. Underused could be something you're kind of aware of, but you are like still kind of keeping it at arm's length, right? So that's a really good way to connect to that energy, and pretty much whoever you're judging outside of you is something that you've disowned within yourself.
Okay.
So what would you call the part that's opposite of the, and I'm going to call it the being part, because lazy is something the judger in us says. And I'm sure if when we talk to that part, they're going to be like, I don't like that word. Right?
Okay.
So your being energy, what would you say is the opposite of Thomas being?
Bootstrap is what comes to my mind. There is a huge thing that like I've always taken pride in. I think it was instilled through family, but also just like no matter what, pick it up, and take life by the bootstraps. Start over again if you need to. So that would be the exact opposite of the lazy, the being part.
Okay. And which energy do you feel like you relate to more in this moment? Like which one would be just really easy for you to get into?
It's easiest for me to get into the being. It's goal oriented for me to be in the bootstrap.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, why don't we start with the being then?
Okay.
And see what they have to say. So why don't we just close our eyes for a second? Just maybe take a big deep breath together here. I'm just going into this with an open mind and an open heart, with the intention of compassion and understanding for ourselves. And when you're ready, just kind of feel into what side of you that part, that being part, is sitting on.
I'm going to go ahead and say that would be on the left. On the left, back in the background a little bit.
Okay. Why don't you just go ahead and like kind of slide over there. And when you get there, you can close your eyes and take a moment just to come into that energy and really just committing to being the part of Thomas that just wants to be, that just wants to exist. And this is the part of Thomas that doesn't really have goals, that, maybe just likes to lay on the couch and watch TV, maybe just listen to music, have a drink, just chill. Like this is a part of Thomas that just likes to be.
Yeah.
And what does this energy feel like in your body?
Relaxed. Peaceful, not, yeah, I would say relaxed. A little bit, like there's no stress. There's not really, yeah. Carefree a little bit.
And when did you become active in Thomas's life?
I want to say like my gut is saying like 11.
11. Okay. Was something happening at that time that made your presence necessary for him?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And why do you think you came forward into his life?
Ooh. This would have been the change from being in public school to being homeschooled.
Oh.
Wow, didn't even think about that.
Right? See, you have so much wisdom in this energy. Just things hiding in your consciousness. And so why do you think you came about during that time? Like what was going on?
I didn't initially want to be homeschooled. Initially. Yeah.
So was that hard for Thomas to be homeschooled?
I felt like I was going to lose friends.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yes. Yeah.
When you're in this energy and you're kind of thinking back to that time, do you remember feeling a little bit unmotivated or lethargic at times?
Yes.
And do you think it had anything to do with losing friends?
Yeah. I was really, I had a lot of friends that I wanted to, like, I played soccer on the park board, and I was doing all of that. Whenever we switched to homeschooling, I lost that connection. Really ever reestablish that connection again on a peer level from that. So I think it made me kind of want to disconnect altogether, I guess.
Interesting. So do you feel like you helped Thomas out in that way?
I definitely made sure that Thomas was still able to have an escape.
Was it painful to feel what he was going through?
No, it's not painful. It was just it was just a sudden change that he wasn't prepared for.
The shock. And as this part of Thomas, as the being part, what makes you feel unsafe?
I think that this I think that Thomas constantly puts me in line for the chopping block of things that Thomas is not real keen on. I don't think that Thomas is really keen on this on me on this part.
And how does that make you feel?
Well, I've done some work for him, so that's kind of rude.
Yeah, it looks like you've really shown up for him when he needed it.
Yeah, I did.
And why do you show up in his life now?
Thomas is in an environment that potentially could cause trauma at any point in time with every other part. I feel like, if I am going to be on the chopping block, then I should be loud and proud about it.
So you try to get his attention.
Yeah.
And how do you try to get his attention?
Um, humor and sarcasm and I mean, there's a combination of things that I try to do. I would say that I do a mix of both. Like it's vices, but it's also noticing um, the small details that happen in the course of a day that are positive. That's one that I try to use a lot.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm sure he actually probably does appreciate that.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe he doesn't tell you he does, though.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, he does every once in a while. I Yeah, he does every once in a while.
If you were fully in charge of Thomas's decisions in his life, what do you think he should do? Like, what would your advice be for him?
My advice for him would be, that's a tough question. My advice for him would be to can make sure he's making time for himself.
Hmm. So when you're getting kind of loud with him and trying to get his attention, is it because he's
It's
not
because
doing that?
he's like just calm down, dude. Just like sit down just for a second. Could you please? That'd be really great. Just chillax. Take your shoes off. You're in your own home. Take your shoes off.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really actually just care about his well-being. You don't want him to burn out.
I don't want him to burn out.
Hmm. And is that what you're trying to protect him from? His
Yes.
burnout?
Mm, yeah.
And what are you concerned might happen if he experienced that?
Well, I think he's been burned out a couple of times and it just doesn't go very well. And then
What
like it's
happens?
uh shut off completely, just not even in tune, like not even at all aware at all. And just almost like going into a dark room and doing this, but it's life. And then that has consequences.
Hmm. And what have some of those consequences been?
Financial and multiple things. Financial, emotional.
Wow. So how often do you say Thomas listens to you, like percentage of the time?
Well, we've been negotiating weekends. So we're trying to do like a little bit, just nobody else is in the room. We're just hanging out. This is what's up.
And how's that going?
Good, I think. I
Okay.
mean, I'm digging it.
Digging him actually listening to you for a change. Are there other parts of him that you're suspicious about? Like, is there an opposite part of you that
hmm
you butt heads with a little bit?
There's a part of him that I am suspicious about because and I'm not well acquainted, but there's a part of him that sometimes speaks before the action can follow and maybe speaks too grandly or grandioso or however you want to word it of what Thomas is going to do. And then Thomas isn't necessarily aware of the fact that that was laid down as the goal of the idea and how is he going to get there. That part is kind of really, I don't know, annoying. I could go without that part, but I'm sure that part could also probably go without me.
Why do you think that part doesn't like you?
Because I'm the person that's like, hey, let's hang back and chill. And that one is like, hey, you should be doing this.
I see. And so, what is Thomas at risk of if he listens to that part?
I guess the part of, I don't know if it's necessarily this part, but failure. And Thomas doesn't deal well with that.
Hmm.
And so if he's not aware of the goals that that part is putting in front of him could be tricky, and I don't like to see Thomas deal with failure. It's really hurts him. Living up, yeah, it's not good.
What happens to him when he fails?
Feels less about himself, which in turn makes us feel less about ourselves.
And so he's like making a judgment about himself because of that.
Yep.
And is there anything that you've kind of helped Thomas with in the past that's turned out really well?
Yeah. I told him that he should live in the moment and do the things that he is feeling and go and do. And he ended up taking a journey down a path of that turned out wonderful for him and helped him develop and understand kind of a little bit the basics of how the world works. Not all of how the world works, but at least exposed him outside of the bubble of what he had been exposed to, which was just primarily church and family, and that was about it.
Oh, so you kind of got him out of his comfort zone a little bit when it came
Yeah.
to maybe like spirituality and beliefs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely did.
It seems like it's been really impactful for him.
I think so.
Like maybe he's trusting you a little bit more.
I mean, I hope so. Definitely hope so.
What do you wish he understood about the value you bring into his life?
I wish that it wasn't just labeled with the escapism and vices. I feel like I get labeled like I'm the alcoholic part, or I'm the party part, or I'm the let's do this, that, and the other part, or let's just not be productive. Not productive. I get labeled not productive a lot.
And so are you saying you don't think you're responsible for the
I don't think that I'm not I think that taking time and chilling out, taking a chill pill is just as productive as cleaning your living room top to bottom and making sure that you're dusting the trim.
Yeah. That's some really wise advice. It's a really beautiful way of looking at it.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think we could all probably use a little bit of that advice. So maybe you're saying there's some other parts of Thomas that are responsible for some of the things that you get blamed for? Interesting. That must be kind of annoying to be like a scapegoat.
Yeah, here we are.
Because then he doesn't really appreciate you for what you are, huh?
Yeah. We all kind of get put in the same boat, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, is there anything else that you'd like Thomas to know about you before we close out with you, or anything else you have to say to him?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, my dear. So if you want to just kind of come back to your aware ego energy.
What?
I know it's a trip, right?
Yes, it's a trip.
What's your biggest takeaway from that?
I need to stop labeling it and trying to push it down into like a little box and like put a label maker on it. It's not, stop. Like, I should stop doing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about that. That was the part that did want to say, hey, chill pill, check it out, go and do it. Didn't even think about that.
What did you?
That's great.
It is great. What did you think about the part about like homeschool?
I didn't even, I mean, that caught me off guard. I didn't want to be homeschooled. I'm glad I was. Retrospect, like all pieces combined, me right now. I mean, I'm very glad that I was, but at the time I didn't want to be.
Right. So interesting. I feel like this part of you maybe helped you cope with that a little bit, because it did sound like that was traumatic for you to lose your friends and have that big change.
Yeah.
It almost kind of helped you shut off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I would say that that's accurate.
Mm. Do you notice this part coming out in life now when you feel like you need to shut off?
Yes. Yeah.
And it actually sounds like that's a good thing.
I think it is. Yeah. It just, yeah. It's being alone with myself, I guess, is great. I love it, but I want to be doing something always, or I feel like I should. There's parts of me that feel like I should. I don't know. I just think that it's challenging to just be. That's a challenge for me.
Well, you have an open root center. So the what we call not self of the open root center in human design is feeling constantly under pressure to do. And it's because you're picking up on whether it's the transit energy or it's other people's energy that you've been around or you're engaging with. You're picking up on their root energy. And it's almost like you're trying to free yourself of pressure. I call it white rabbit syndrome. It's like, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. Like, I'm feeling pressured. But the actual like healthy state for the open root center is being in your own timing, listening to your own flow, especially since you're mostly right facing arrow being, you're a right variable being. It's all about flowing with life for you and just kind of like not putting that pressure on yourself, noticing when that not self is coming forward, the pressure. And this is why parts work is helpful, because we can talk to that pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's actually really common. My husband has an open root, and I feel this from him all the time. It's like, I just got to do things. I got to do, and he's gotten a lot better, but not self. It's not actually you.
Yeah. And whenever I am okay and I can forget about whenever I can remove my own expectations within myself, whenever I'm able to do that, it's great. It's gravy.
Yeah.
But it's getting there is rare.
It's the deconditioning process, my dear. Oh, well, what do you say we talk to the opposite part? What do we call it? The bootstrap?
Yeah, bootstrap.
Bootstrap. So where do you feel like he's sitting?
To the right and up a little bit is where that one is.
Perfect. Oh, there's a little bit of an echo. I think maybe if you put your headphones on.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. I think because there's a lag or something.
It's probably.
Get into that bootstrap. I wonder what this part of you looks like.
Is this better?
Yes, so much better. Thank you. Yay.
Bootstrap. Yeah. Okay.
So, are you slid over there?
I'm there.
Okay. So you're just taking a second to ground into this energy. So this is a part of Thomas that is a goal setter, go-getter, wants to get things done.
Yeah.
Gets ideas and is just like, yeah, we could do that. Yes. What does it feel
Yes,
like
it is.
in this energy?
Fast.
Mm.
Lots of constant change. I think that the best way I know how to describe it is the processor, like just constantly like just going. Pac-Man, eating the ducks.
I like that. The Pac-Man part.
Yeah, a little bit. Like everything that I take in, if anything gives me inspiration, this one is like, we could put that into action. We could
Mm.
put that into action. You could do that. We could do that.
And when did you come into Thomas's life? When did you first become active?
I think that I have been around for a while. I don't know how I've been around. Um, I think actually, yeah, I came into place probably 22.
22. And what was going on in Thomas's life at that time?
We were trying to sort out things through that happened with family. We weren't talking to family, weren't involved with family. We kind of had to start from ground zero, financially, spiritually, all of it. And we just needed to hit the ground running. So I think I came into place.
I see. And so it sounds like you helped him kind of get his life back on track.
I don't know if I helped him get his life back on track, but I definitely made sure that his feet were moving.
Okay. Was he just kind of in a place where he wasn't motivated?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it wasn't that he wasn't motivated. There was so much going on. He couldn't really sort it all out.
So he's overwhelmed.
Yeah, big time.
So you just got him to like move forward,
With
move it
something.
all.
Yeah, throw him anything. If it sticks, it sticks.
Okay. So is it that you weren't really like picky about what he was doing because it was the movement that was the most important to you?
Yep.
Forward moving energy. Gotcha. And are there times, so during that time, were you mostly in charge of his decisions for a while?
Yeah. Some of them, I would say I had influence on maybe like 75% of his decisions.
Okay. And were there times where you didn't have any influence on him?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was going on at that time?
Escapism and not wanting to do anything and just like checking out and whatever. Yeah.
Mm. And how does that make you feel when he starts checking out?
Well, a little bit of waste of time.
Okay. So you're concerned about time.
I am.
And what does wasting time look like to you?
If you're not really developing, like, I'm fine with Thomas developing himself. I think that's great. I think that's why I'm here. I'm part of that process. I don't understand how all that works, but whatever. But
Yeah.
as far as like, if you're not at least developing yourself or doing something to help somebody else or doing something to better your future, then it just feels like a waste of time.
Oh, okay. So you are mostly focused on Thomas bettering himself
Yeah.
in some way. Okay.
Yep.
So less concerned about just pure forward moving energy. And now has it shifted to like the goal of bettering himself?
As he's opening up all of these different channels that he's going through, Thomas is understanding what it's like to better himself. And I think that that's great. So I can take that and kind of play with that and throw him stuff that he might really enjoy that might better himself.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Like I talked him into this whole thing where he was going to make soaps and hand sanitizers and do all of this. And he did it. He bought all the supplies. I'm really proud of that. And he's going with it. That's fun. But like, it doesn't have to be like, you have to make sure that you have $15,000 in savings by this point. I'm not gonna do that to him, I guess.
Okay. So so you're excited for him to start this new endeavor?
I'm excited for him if he's excited. I just wanted to make sure that he stays excited.
Okay. So how do you feel if he like loses interest and just stops doing that?
I have to scramble a little bit.
Okay. And is that a challenge for you?
Yeah, I mean, it can be.
Okay. So is that kind of where that kind of fast-paced energy comes from, is because you're like, oh crap, I got to figure something out now?
Yep.
And what happens when you're scrambling?
Anything that I find gets thrown at him to, yep.
Just throwing things at the wall, see what sticks. Yeah. Okay. And how do you think he feels about that?
Probably I overwhelm him,
Oh, okay.
which is not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. That's not your intention.
No.
Is there somebody that you take after in his family, or like, is there a role model that you have?
Mm, I would say my grandparents that I've never met
Okay.
because they passed. But I would say things that have been shared from both Thomas's mom about that particular set of grandparents, his mother's parents, were really go-getters, and just so I think that that's probably where some of that comes from.
That's interesting. Were they like entrepreneurs or self-employed?
Yes,
Cool.
entrepreneurs. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. I've heard in human design that we skip a generation and our design is more similar to our grandparents or one of our grandparents' designs. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be in alignment with this manifestor energy. Do you identify with that manifestor energy type that Thomas has learned about?
I think I'm part of that. I do think I'm part of that. Not all of it, because he part of it is just understanding a kind of a world, but there's parts of that world that I don't really necessarily feel like I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But there is part of that, like that machine part of being a manifester that I think I fit in.
I see. Okay. Very interesting. So, what do you want for Thomas the most? Like, what is crucially important for him?
Happiness is really important. I
And
want
what
him to, I want him to be successful.
and what is success to you?
To me, it is happiness and financial stability and yeah.
Hmm. So is that mostly what you motivate him with, is like ways to be financially stable and successful?
Yes.
Okay. So like having a good job and lots of money in the bank, that's your definition of success.
A task that you can see completed, and if it financially benefits you, cool beans.
Okay. So task completion is what's actually more important to you.
Yes.
Interesting. Cool. Cool. And so what are your worst fears for Thomas? Like what would be the worst thing that could happen to him?
Having to start over.
And why is that the worst?
Because he's had to start over multiple times, and he's not getting any younger.
So you feel like you're on a time crunch
Yeah.
to like have that success?
Yeah.
So if you were fully in charge of Thomas's decisions in his life, what do you think he should do?
Well, I think I have a heavy narrative with his current plans and schedule. I would say that I want him to fulfill the course of where he's at right now with his job. And I want him to be able to start the project of his future into his 40s and the rest of his life, comfortable financially, and he can figure it out from there. And I'll chime in whenever I am needed, I guess.
So you're saying you're like kind of excited for him to go to a space that you can maybe take a step back a little
I would
bit?
like to take a step back.
Yes. Yeah. And is there another part of Thomas that you're suspicious about? Maybe the part that we spoke to earlier?
Yeah, that one is just, I have a hard time with that because it's like, I feel like it's old habits or it's childish. I don't,
I see. So you don't like it when Thomas is in that energy?
I love it.
And how do you try to get his attention if he's in that energy?
Mm, I would say I bring, oof, I do that to him. I bring situations that he may not be thinking about to the forefront of his mind with other people sometimes, and with um, tasks around the house. I bring that to his attention. He's going to be lethargic or he's going to be at home by himself, then I'm like, hey, what about the floors? The floors look kind of dirty. Did you do those dishes? Yeah.
Okay, so it's like the productivity, and again, it's like it's movement. It seems like you like him to be in motion.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like the stillness that really kind of gets to you.
Yeah. And the meditation thing was a really big challenge because I'm like, I don't know if he's actually going to dedicate himself to it, but he's seeing it through to completion, so I have no issues.
Okay, so he can be still as long as he's like meditation feels productive to you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. So, what do you think it's most important for Thomas to pay attention to?
His mental health
Okay,
and investing in the future.
okay. And what do you think he should deal with first? Like, what's first on the agenda?
Mental health.
Okay. And are you satisfied with how he's dealing with that right now?
I am so happy that he's on this path.
Awesome. What do you think can be like safely ignored? Like, what do you think doesn't really matter in his life right now that he can just kind of put to the side?
What should he ignore? What
Yeah, like what can he kind of not worry about right now?
Other people's opinions of what he's of the journey that he's on, like just like shut it down.
Okay. So you think mental health is number one, and other people's opinions can just kind of take a hike.
They can go F. Yeah.
That's really good advice. I feel like you really care about Thomas.
I care a lot about Thomas.
Yeah, it seems like you just really have his best interest in mind.
And
Are there any activities that he does that you just completely don't approve of?
No, I don't think that, like, I don't approve of. No, no.
Hmm.
He needs to make his bed like every day. I don't understand why you don't make your bed every day, and I don't understand doing all the laundry and never putting it away. That just doesn't make any sense. You're already doing the task. Just put it up in the closet.
Mm.
And he has all these piles of clean folded laundry. Doesn't go any further than that. It's stupid.
How do you try to get his attention when he doesn't complete those tasks?
Well, what we've been doing is putting it in really odd pieces. So then that way it's like, oh, look at that. That's a whole fucking pile of clothes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it would make you happy if he would just like
Just do it.
tasks.
You're almost there.
And do you feel it's like maybe that other part of him, the being part, that's like, no, we don't need to do that?
100%, because that side is like, oh, well, you already did that. Look at that. Good job. It's not done.
So done is right. in your perspective. Okay. I get that. I definitely get that. It's like that unfinished business.
Yep.
How often do you think Thomas listens to you, just like generally speaking?
I would say maybe like 40% of the time, 40 to 50%.
And are you satisfied with that?
I think with the job that Thomas has, right? Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. I think if it were any more, I think I would just, like I said earlier, I think I'd overwhelm him.
Okay. So you're kind of understanding his threshold right now. Okay. And would it benefit you if Thomas would check in with you sometimes?
I would like, daily check-ins would be cool.
Okay. And maybe wouldn't have to try to get his attention so much if he would just like talk to you.
Yep.
Okay. That's not too much to ask.
No.
And what do you wish Thomas understood about the value that you bring to his life?
I think that he does understand my value. It's not coming from a place of obligation, I think. And this probably isn't answering your question, but it might be answer the question that you may ask. One thing I want to say to him is that I'm not obligation. It's coming from a place of trying to better and see tasks completed and feel accomplished because you have done those things. And so it's not coming out of a place of like, I think I come across sometimes as like vision and you can go and do and encouragement, but then also I come across as like a rainy cloud sometimes, like, oh God, this is, I have to do this. If I don't do this, he's going to feel worse about himself. And that's not what my goal is either. So.
Very interesting. Well, thank you for speaking to us. It was nice to get to know you.
Yeah, no problem.
Back, Thomas.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay. Okay, so back in the aware ego. What was that experience like?
That was great. It's interesting I really appreciate this exercise of seeing both sides of that because they are very, very different sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's both you. It's just different parts of you. So it's kind of like you can't over-identify with anything because there's always more to us.
Yeah.
Do you kind of see why quote unquote lazy people trigger you now?
Yeah, I do. Especially because of the part we just talked to, bootstrap.
Mm-hmm.
I want them, whenever I see lazy people, I think that they aren't coming to terms with another part of themselves, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So you're like wanting them to connect to their bootstrap? Because why is that?
Because bootstrap is just, I give it a lot of time, I give it a lot of attention, and I give it a lot of energy, and it has benefited me.
Yeah, he gets shit done. He's a powerful energy. Like he's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, are you the manifestor? It's so interesting looking at your chart like while we're doing this and kind of listening to some of the things that you say, because you have gate 11, which is the gate of ideas, and I have that gate as well, and it's like a constant stream of ideas.
Constant.
It's like we love brainstorming and just being like,
I love
all the ideas.
I love brainstorming, and it's like I have always been like told that was daydreaming, but it's not that it's not necessarily daydreaming. It's just like it just freaking happens.
Yes. And what's cool about this gate is the gift of it is idealism. So which I know can sound kind of negative by some people's standards, but it's holding the vision for people and for the world. And so what's cool is like, what I've learned is I should just write my ideas down because they're actually not all meant for me. I'm like a channel for ideas. So like, I'll be like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then maybe a few days later, I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, oh, I had that idea the other day. You should do that or whatever. Here, you take it. I have this gift for you.
Yeah.
And then it takes the pressure off of me because I'm like, oh, that wasn't meant for me.
Yes.
Right? So when you write things down, it actually helps because, especially being an emotional authority, you can allow yourself to feel into your ideas more and just be like, okay, I have that idea. I'm just going to write her down. And maybe that'll satisfy Bootstrap to have like a list of ideas.
Yeah.
You can go to those ideas if you feel like you're course correcting or changing your mind about something, which is also very manifestory, by the way. It's just like bursts of energy here, there. Okay, now I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah.
And it's because you don't have that sustainable energy, because manifestors aren't meant to output like generators are.
Right.
They're meant to work in bursts. And your emotions are actually what's giving you a lot of energy, because that's your only motor center.
Yeah.
The motor center creates movement. So it's your emotions that are moving you to do things. But your emotional authority, so you really shouldn't make big decisions like that. You got to wait them out. You got to feel into things. So that's where I would encourage you to really kind of just feel out your ideas and be like, with the soap thing, for example. I mean, that feels correct for you, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Let me get them really quick.
Yeah, you're good.
I'll push really pause really quick.
You're good.
I had the blinds open.
So,
No, I see what you were talking about with the soap thing. Absolutely. Like as that part's coming out and I'm talking to you, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, but you don't even know if that's really what you want to do yet. But you're gonna into it and do it, you know?
mm-hmm. So it's with emotional authority, what I'm really learning is we each have a different wave, like, and our waves are all different lengths of time. And some waves, like, I just signed on with a business coach and it took me like 5 months to feel into that, whether it was a good idea for me or not.
Yeah.
It was a big decision though. So I really took my time with it, and I had to experience all of the aspects of my wave to hit neutrality and actually know that it was a good decision for me. So it's like, and every day you're kind of feeling a different emotion about this decision. It's like, but this and this, and it's just like allowing yourself to go everywhere emotionally. And just allowing the high to be there, the excitement. Ooh, this feels really good. I'm super excited, but I'm not going to make a decision yet. And then maybe you go down to the bottom and you're like, yeah, what if I fail? Or it's a lot of money. And like, you're just kind of like, just, going back and forth between those two parts, really. And then just kind of going up and down. And you want to catch yourself in that neutral part of the wave where you're like, I'm feeling clear. I'm just feeling like this fog has lifted and I know this is the right thing to do. So it's confusing when you're a manifestor and you have emo authority, because manifestors move so fast. And that's in your design. You're meant to move quickly. But with emo authority, you got to slow it down a little bit when it comes to big decisions. And I would think of, as starting a business, I would think of that as a big decision. Because it's an investment in time and money. And so then it's like, I think that's where you probably have the this part of the bootstrap part that doesn't like that you don't finish things, because maybe there's some trauma around not completing things in your life because you've emotionally made decisions and not given yourself enough time. So then he doesn't trust you because he's like, but you said you would do this and now you're not doing it. So by actually giving yourself time to wait it out, it allows you to make the correct decision for you.
Yeah. That makes sense.
How does that like feel in your body to just like think about kind of implementing that?
Good. It makes me feel like I need to, no, just be more aware, I guess, like going into it, being aware of the emotional, like the emotional part of it as you engage in that experience,
Mm-hmm.
being aware of the emotions that are surrounding it, and then and still being allowed to, like you said, manifestors, we do go quick, being allowed to be informed and then make the decision
Mm-hmm.
is what that makes me think.
Yeah. And kind of like checking in with both of those parts of you that we spoke to. How do you think they feel about this notion? Like,
I
can you
think
kind of hear them?
I can.
Yeah.
I 100% can. I would say that the being is like, just make sure you, I think that it does line up with what you're saying as far as the emotional awareness and what surrounds a situation. I think
Mm-hmm.
that they actually could come to an agreement on it.
So do you feel it? I can feel energetically like they're coming together a little bit.
Yeah,
Like I'm almost feeling like a closeness.
like a shake of hands.
Yes. Like I can visually, like I can see it. Like I feel like both of them just went, ah.
A little bit, yeah. That was like kind of like a truce moment there. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That was really beautiful. Like the room feels lighter.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting?
That is, yeah. It is
It's
interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So fascinating. So this is interesting because looking at your chart too, like that gate 11 is in your unconscious earth, which really just means that is something that grounds you. And it's your purpose. So ideas are actually kind of your purpose. And being idealistic. But when I think about this, because I know that you are really passionate about helping people,
Yeah.
and you really want to like open people up to themselves and what's possible in life. And that makes perfect sense for me because it's almost like your purpose is to hold the vision for other people and get them to see that vision for themselves.
Yeah. Yes. So that makes complete and total sense, because going back to whenever I was going through and working through the Wounds to Wisdom course that I took of yours, the higher self, that was literally one of the conversations that I had with him during that moment, was talking about facilitating light and helping people understand what it was to find that within themselves. That was a whole moment that I had. And I was just like, holy balls. Because I have always thought that it was about religion, because that's how I was raised. So I always thought that that part of myself was, I needed to be a voice or a message for the church. And it's not even necessarily about that. It's about, hey, I look at you and you're an actual person. I see that you have all sorts of parts to you. I see everything wonderful and ugly about you. Do you see it? Yeah,
And it's all
totally.
magic. It's all magical.
Yep.
The wounded, it's all magic.
Yeah.
I love it. So interesting. And I mean, so you're a shores person and environment. And this is kind of stuff I usually get into with people when they've been doing their experiment for a little bit, but I'm just feeling like telling you about this.
Let's go.
But I'm a shores person as well. That's where I'm like, oh my God, we're like pretty similar with some things here. But yeah, I'm a shores person, and what that means is we like to be in between two worlds, and we like to explore places that we haven't gone to yet. So that's why I love the cosmos, right? UFO tattooed on my arm, because I'm an explorer, and we're the ones who are like, oh, cool, we haven't been there yet. Let's go.
Yep.
Right. And so it's called shores because when you're on a shore, like when you're on a beach, you're basically in two worlds at that time. You're the ocean and you're on land. And the thing about what the ocean is just like this vast, deep thing that we don't really even understand as humans.
Yeah. It's like the cosmos.
It is. That's why I'm so fascinated with the ocean.
Me
And why I was
too.
obsessed with like dolphins and whales and aquatic beings growing up.
Yeah.
Right? So shores, that's what it is. We're fascinated by the unknown, by the places that we haven't fully gone to yet. So when you kind of combine that with what we've been talking about, how you're here to hold the vision, you're also a shores person, you're here to be comfortable in that unknown energy and hold that space for people.
Yeah.
And kind of guide them to that.
It's never scared me. The unknown has not scared me at all. Does death scare you? Death doesn't scare me.
I have gate 28, so death terrifies me because the shadow of that is a fear of death, but you do not have that. So it's something I'm working on. Outer space doesn't scare me. I will go in a rocket. I will go into the ocean. But
the only thing that scares me about space is that I have a fear of heights. So I don't know if when you're up there, if it's like you feel like you're really, really up there, or if it's a whole nother world. I have no idea.
I don't either. That's what I'm curious about. What's it like? I'm always just daydreaming, looking out a window. How often do you just like look out a window?
All the time.
That's such a shores thing. It's like, because you want to be in two worlds. So you're in your room, but then you're looking out the window, so you're somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's kind of where that daydreamer energy comes from, is because we're thinking about like, where can we explore?
Yeah.
Where can we go? It's so fascinating. I love it. It's so interesting. Well, do you have any questions, my dear? This was so fun. I don't know that I've ever done a session quite like this where I was like, I mean, I guess I naturally do this in session where I have people charts up and I'm pulling things from the chart, but I think it was so interesting to do parts work and be looking at your chart at the same time.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any questions. It was pretty yeah, that was awesome. That was wild.
Yeah, and it was interesting how we kind of came full circle to talk about life purpose. Like, it's like we never know where it's going to go. But that's kind of what I was feeling like you needed to dissect a little bit and like tease out today.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Thank you for that. And that's so crazy. Like, it really does feel like this weird mental handshake between these. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm so glad you guys got to hang out.
So what kind of like promises can you make to these parts of you going forward from this witness observer role?
I'm not going to label them. I'm not going to put them in boxes. And I'm gonna, my promise is for sure to encourage the conversation to continue between the two of them. Yeah. I don't want this to be one of those things where it's like, you know, we're sitting down at the cafeteria table and we're pretending like we're going to be friends and we're not. And I don't want that to happen, because I do feel like this is good. And I would promise to make sure that I'm tuning into both and encouraging both of them to communicate with one another.
I love that. Just like having more compassion for these parts and it's almost like you're being that parent, right? Yeah. You're taking the role of the parent. It's like you have two children that are fighting and you're like, hey guys, like, let's figure something out here.
Yeah, exactly.
You're being the authority in the situation because they're children and they can't actually be the authority.
Yeah. I
love it. So good.
Me too.
So
that's
good,
cool.
Thomas. Yes.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, absolutely.